Reconciliation, rebuilding, and rejuvenation are the concepts being advocated as new faces prepare to take the saddle in the states and at the center. While there has been disquiet over purported phone conversations, the conversation for development, progress, unity of purpose, and security of jobs, lives, and property, experts believe, are of more important and substantial value to the cause of nation building, particularly as the nation's leaders enter the political subway, where some are disembarking while some are newly coming on board. Today, Political Update will attempt to navigate the labyrinth of Nigerian politics. I'm Fisayo Ogunfuyi. Welcome. Let's look at events in the past week. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has condemned in strong terms the alleged call and plot to install an interim government in Nigeria. This was after an emergency General Assembly meeting of the Council in Abuja.
There are representatives of the 18 registered political parties who are conscious of the need for reconciliation, healing, political stability, national unity, peace, cohesion, and desire to preserve the country's democracy after the 2023 general election. It is in this regard that the Council's meeting is condemning any attempt towards discrediting and intended to truncating the nation's democracy.
IPAC rejects any attempt to scuttle, subvert, and truncate the nation's emerging democracy by reactionary and retrogressive forces. It is in an attempt to overheat the polity, cause confusion, political upheavals, impasse, and quagmire.
Council made reference to the DSS statement that it has uncovered a plot by some persons to violently disrupt the nation's peace and install an interim government, and demands that the country's intelligence service should name the plotters, arrest and prosecute them in accordance with the law of the land, and to serve as a deterrent to others who would resort to self-help to achieve their selfish political ambitions. IPAC also urges all aggrieved political parties, their candidates and supporters to eschew violence in all ramifications and seek redress in court of law for perceived infractions and irregularities in the conduct of the 2023 general election, as it similarly urged the judiciary to dispense justice without fear or favor as the temple of justice and last hope of all aggrieved persons.
And from the states now, we hear that enduring peace, economic prosperity, and sustainable development will be the focal point of the incoming administration in Kano State. The state governor-elect, Kabir Yusuf, disclosed this during the inauguration of Gubernatorial Transition Committee to prepare the ground for the May 29 takeover of the new government.
This is the first public engagement of the Kano State Governor-elect, Kabir Yusuf, since his declaration as winner of the governorship election. The inauguration of the 65-member Gubernatorial Transition Committee is the first step towards smooth transfer of power from the departing to the incoming administration in the state. Led by the former Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Dr. Abdullahi Bofabichi, the committee is made up of seasoned administrators, technocrats, academics, and party stakeholders. The governor-elect, who tasked members on selfless service, promised to run a progressive government that will be responsive to the yearnings of Kano people.
We are transiting to meritocracy and target-driven and purposeful governance.
We are going to do this work with diligence, like you requested, with professionalism, like you requested, and with patriotism, like you directed.
Update on gubernatorial, state government and executive branch records, key assignments given to the Transition Committee.
Now, the quest to ensure good governance does not only rest on the executive. The legislature at the state and national levels make laws to guide processes that ensure that society is on an even keel. Joining us today is Right Honorable Sada Soli, member representing Kaita Jibia Federal Constituency of Katsina State. Let's start by congratulating you on your return to the House of Representatives. If we do a quick review of the activities of the 9th Assembly in terms of legislative interventions, which one easily come to mind?
Well, thank you for having me. The easy ones that could come to fore is the PIB, that's now the PIA, which took about 2 decades without being passed, and this 9th Assembly passed it. Then there is this, we looked at the Finance Act, we looked at the issue of the Electoral Act. When we wanted to amend it, it came on timely. It introduced a lot of far-reaching changes of the Electoral Act and the way it has helped our electoral process. Then also the issue of, we're looking at the issue of Compensation Act, which deals with NSITF. Then we're also looking at we also looked at the issue of ease of doing business. We all passed this legislation that helped the administration. Then also the issue of trying to find areas where we can help to block leakages, in like the issue of spontaneous revenue items that we'll be looking at, like the issue of subsidy, like the issue of custom duty recovery intervention, like the issue of domestic crude allocation issue. These are all issues that we are prepared to make an intervention if the incoming administration is willing to work with the parliament.
All right, that's talking about the incoming administration, of course. But in terms of what is happening now, the 9th Assembly, you still have a few more weeks, or let's say months or 2 months to look at. But if we look at the 9th Assembly before we move on to other things, in your own, in terms of your contribution, what are your specific interventions in the outgoing parliament, the 9th Assembly, perhaps that made your people to say, okay, you can still go back?
Well, I dealt with issue that borders on a larger part of my community. That's the issue of nomadic education. I brought an amendment on the nomadic education legislation, which will provide will provide incentives for the girl child, for the nomads, then which also will bring in adult literacy, which was not there in that legislation. Then also the idea of adjusting the time frame for the nomadic. You find the nomads, they have different seasons in the way of their life. Even not necessarily the nomads that rear cattle, but even you find the nomads even within in the south where the fishermen, they move from one river to the other. You also need to capture them. You need to adjust the time frame for their studies. You need to involve the adult literacy. Then also give an incentive to girl child in that process. Also, I brought a legislation that will amend the CBN Act because of the seeming weakness of the CBN Act that we have seen, whereby we add some of the disqualification for the governor of the CBN, the deputy governor of the CBN, the director of CBN, where they become a card-carrying members of a political party or they are partisan politicians. They are disqualified to participate, which was well accepted in the House. Then also there was the issue of this legislation that I brought on the amendment on MBC Act, which will regulate and control online broadcast, which was not the internet broadcast and all online media broadcast, which will also bring in more tax, and then they will control it, and then they will see how it will fit into our society. These are some of the far-reaching legislation that I've introduced, and a host of others that I've contributed on the floor, which are hundreds of them, which I don't have the time.
Okay, but let's still look at the 9th Assembly. In the first part of your your comments, you spoke about what the 9th Assembly was able to do. Yes, of course, they will still have a few months, just about a few weeks before you round off activities in the House. But why are there not so many members returning? Many of your colleagues are not returning, in spite of all these huge, the interventions that this assembly, at least that you stated they have made now. Many of your members are not returning. Why? Why is this great tsunami that has swept a lot of them away from, return?
Well, I would say it's unfortunate. It's fortunate because some people will get an opportunity also to be to take part in public service. But there are 3 things, in my own opinion, that is causing this high turnover of members of the National Assembly. One, the party management. If you see the party management is another thing to look at. The political parties must look at the way they manage, the way they recruit leadership. Secondly, there are local issues. There are local political issues because they said all politics is local. Some of these things are basically local issues because of there is this the issue of zoning. You find even one local government from one ward. I mean, these are some of the things that I think contributed factor of zoning. Then also the way we do our recruitment, the recruitment of leadership is another thing that we should look at. And having said this, if only we can bring these things to a strategic thinking, to a strategic planning, I think we can reduce the turnover, and then we develop the institution, we create more capacity to the members of the National Assembly. Also, we will reduce cost to the government over training and retraining of members. Now, possibly we may end up having about 250 new members. You can imagine how much money we are going to spend to train them to catch up from what the previous assembly has done. So these are some of the issues that I think we should look at, local issues, the party management, and the way we recruit leadership.
Okay, we'll take a pause now. We'll take a few stories before we come to conclusion on the program. The All Progressives Congress in Rivers State has confirmed the release of its documents that were earlier seized by the police command over the weekend. Governorship candidate of the party, Tony Cole, who confirmed the release notes, will aid their preparation for the election tribunal in Rivers State.
The governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC in Rivers State, Pastor Tony Cole, who made the disclosure during an interview with newsmen at the State Criminal Investigation Department, Rivers State, noted that the documents were released to them after 36 hours of their seizure by the police. He revealed that they have been on alert to ensure the safety of the documents while the police carried out their investigations. This is because they are part of sensitive materials that the APC in Rivers State will be presenting as evidence at the election tribunal.
Yesterday, we got all the lawyers released. Lawyers were released on self-recognition. The assistant staff, ad hoc staff that were working with them, support staff, were released on bail, and the party chairman stood in for them to take them out. What we had to make sure was necessary to be released, where all the evidence are from EC8, EC8A, EC8B, and most people know. If you don't know what that is, these are the agent's copy of the evidence that we had an election.
Pastor Tony Cole was accompanied by the party chairman Emenike Beke and other senior party officials in the state. The police had, in a statement through its public relations officer in Rivers State, SP Grace Imringe Koko, confirmed that the arrests were made based on a tip-off that some persons were printing documents that looked like INEC documents, prompting the arrest.
The New Nigeria People's Party Taraba State chapter has urged INEC to review the results of the just concluded governorship and state assembly elections in the state to give a peaceful chance. The party made this known at a peaceful rally here in Abuja.
These are members of the New Nigeria People's Party from Taraba State on a peaceful protest in front of INEC headquarters, Abuja. Their demands are to review the processes that led to the declaration of PDP candidate as winner in the just concluded March 18 governorship election. Shortly after submission of complaint letter to electoral umpire, chairman of the NNPP Taraba State chapter, Umar Muhammad, speaks.
Our people there in Taraba, they should have this good news that INEC have received us. They've given us the good will message to return back to them.
The matter that they have brought will be tabled before the commission, and a decision will be reached and they will be communicated.
Meanwhile, the Natives, a socio-cultural political group, was at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission to commend them for conducting a credible, free and fair presidential election that produced Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president-elect.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu is already preparing for May 29. Yes, and we are all brothers and sisters. And we can all work together and change our country. As far as I'm concerned, leave INEC out of your business. You lost election and be good losers. Go to court.
The group cautioned stakeholders from post-election conduct that are capable of threatening the unity of Nigeria.
National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, says the resilience and voluntary services by committed support groups added value to the success of the APC at the polls. The National Secretariat of the APC played host to leaders of some support groups.
After securing victory at the February 25th presidential election, their target is towards May 29, when the president-elect will formally take the mantle of leadership. As support groups, they pledged useful services towards a peaceful transition.
I normally, it's my style to say together, because together we pulled and together we won. But some of us did not do what they are supposed to do. Some of us did not do enough. If we went by their standard, this victory would not have been possible. So we must guard against the future.
So that we can focus on keeping to the promises we have made to Nigerians during the election campaign.
Meanwhile, National Vice Chairman Northwest of the All Progressives Congress, Saliu Mohammed Lukman, wants the Independent National Electoral Commission to review the governorship elections in states where the exercise was declared inconclusive.
In cases where it can be established, and there are those cases where electoral officers clearly compromise, INEC should take steps to correct it, including taking disciplinary measures.
March 18 governorship elections in Kebbi and Adamawa states have been declared inconclusive.
We're still watching political update on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have Honorable Sada Soli, member representing Keita Jibia Federal Constituency of Katsina State. Honorable, we go to the home straight now by asking you a few questions concerning, legislation for development. Looking at the fact that you were a ranking member, returned despite the tsunami across the country, would you be willing to provide guidance irrespective of party affiliations to new members of the House of Representatives coming from different parties, especially what you have, spoken about, in terms of the freshers you're expecting in the 10th Assembly?
You see, asking me whether I will be ready to provide guidance, that is an obligation. It's an obligation for every ranking member to provide guidance for our incoming new members. Particularly myself, that has been in that institution since 1992. I have seen it all. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the institution. So it will be a disservice for me if I fail for any reason, given the opportunity at any point in time to provide guidance for my colleagues that are coming in, so that they will catch up on time and we have robust and developmental legislation that are ahead of us.
All right, I said at the opening, I said it's a subway we are in now. Some are disembarking, some are coming on stream, new leaders as such. Also, we have an incoming government at the national level, most especially and very importantly. One would, probably ask, since you are a member of the ruling party, what would you be doing, perhaps, to help legislatively that the incoming government perhaps, settles down quickly and perhaps get its agenda fast-tracked to see that the nation is on an even keel?
Well, that is a very, very important question. One, we will work with the incoming government, develop a executive legislative agenda for them and for the National Assembly as well, particularly in the areas of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Fiscal Responsibility Act must be looked at so that we will ease off some of the leakages in the MDAs. Then also we will try to help and engage the incoming administration in the area of public sector administration. That is a very, very important area that they should concentrate. Then also the area of spontaneous revenue items, like the issue of domestic crude allocation, like the issue of subsidy, like the issue of custom duty recovery, and a host of others that will ease off some money, and then the government can have available money to start off in short. This is just an area of low-hanging fruit that the government can work with the legislator and kickstart things. But
a challenge that Nigerians in some constituencies have found in terms of representation is that you go there after every 4 years and display portfolios, tell them promise heaven and earth. Then after the representatives are sent to Abuja, they come back in tinted jeeps, and nobody sees them again until another 4-year cycle. What would be your word in terms of what new things should the legislators be doing to see that the partnership for development between the people, the leaders and the led, is concretized in this new dispensation?
Well, one area, the legislators must be close to their constituents. You must go back, talk with them. Any issue that comes up in the parliament, take it back home and let them participate in discussing the issues. Then you bring back this issue. If you carry the constituents or your people along in the process of legislation, you are more likely to get it right. On the issue of saying that some members don't go home, I actually disagree with that. But it is out there. But if they don't go back home, how do you find about 120 of them being returned? But the issue is, if we want to carry everybody along, we must be an inclusive process of legislation, inclusive in the sense that our constituents must be involved in the process of legislation. If we adopt that kind of system, that kind of strategy, I think we'll get things right this time around.
A former former member of parliament, Senator Bassey Otu, is the governor-elect of Cross River State. He's received his certificate of return and has promised the people that with his experience, he will bring the dividends of democracy to bear in that state.
Acknowledges the support of the women, youth, traditional rulers, the elders in Cross River State in ensuring that justice, equity and fairness prevailed, had the governor-elect Prince Bassey Otu assured the people of a season of sweetness in all aspects of expected and desired transformation in Cross River State.
I want to thank God and thank Cross Riverians, both indigenous, non-indigenous, for making this day, because our manifesto is right out there in terms of what we deliver. INEC have not only succeeded in putting a government in place, there will be further credence because the government you put in place is going to perform. This is the assurance we give to Cross River State.
So we thank this governor, who I believe that God Almighty will protect and be with him for the rest of his life. For upholding justice, for upholding fairness, for upholding equity. Because when it is your turn, it is your turn. And he appreciated that.
The exciting moment climaxed with the parade and display of the rich cultural heritage of Cross River State. It was a fun moment to behold as the party continued ceaselessly. In Calabar, Maureen Leo Ajom, NTA News.
That reports conclude political update today. Many thanks to Honorable Sada Soli, member representing Keita Jibia Federal Constituency of Katsina State. Hopefully, when we call on you again, especially when you conclude activities in this house, we understand. Of course, we still have a few weeks to go. You will still oblige us on the program.
I will always be available.
All right, thanks. That's the program on Political Update today. Keep it logged on Nigerian Television Authority for your news, reviews, previews, and interviews. We'll be back on Friday, God willing, with a fresher, brighter program. As I always say on this program, play your politics for the greater good. Bye-bye now.